of learning. This is Kathleen Wiley, your math teacher for today. Today's video presentation will help you understand our fourth quarter health lesson. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates and videos. And also, please prepare a piece of paper and a ball pen as we have different activities to undertake throughout the lesson. For the most essential learning competencies, we have number 1, differentiate intentional injuries from unintentional injuries. Number 2, describe the types of intentional injuries. Number 3, identifies protective factors related to intentional injuries. And number 4, demonstrate ways to prevent and control intentional injuries. For the objectives, we have: first, describe the types of intentional injuries. Second, categorize situations based on the types of intentional injuries. And third, demonstrate ways to prevent and control intentional injuries. Before we proceed with our topic for today, let's first have a review of our past lesson. Here's the directions. Identify the following pictures through its given description. Number 1. It is a cut caused by a knife, broken glass, or any sharp objects. Incision. Very good. Number 2. It is a break in the continuity of a tissue in a body. It may be closed in which there is no break or damage in the skin. The answer is abrasion. Good job. Number 3. It is used to reduce swelling and relieve pain. It is used especially on sprains and strains. Cold compress. Good job. Now that we are done with our review, let's now have the first task for today. Learning Task 1. Directions. Classify the news headlines presented as to whether it is intentional or unintentional injury. Number 1. Estudyante, nagpakamatay matapos mabully. Number 2. Karambole ng mga sasakyan, 7 ang sugatan. Number 3. Girl, 7, kidnap in QC. Number 4. Sekyo, nasagasaan dahil sa sobrang kalasingan. How are you able to classify each news headline? Perhaps you classify the news headlines according to the given emergency situation. How would you define injury? Yes! On our previous lesson, you have learned that an injury is a general term that refers to harm caused by accidents and many other situations. How did you distinguish the news headline as intentional or unintentional? When do we say that an injury is intentional or unintentional? Let's find out. On our previous lesson, you have learned there are 2 types of injuries, and our main focus was unintentional injuries, which refers to injuries that occur without the intention of causing damage to oneself or others. Today, we are going to talk about intentional injuries. Intentional injuries are injuries resulting from violence. There are 2 types of intentional injury. We have the self-inflicted and the assault. Self-inflicted. It is when a person harms himself or herself on purpose. Assault is when a person harms another person on purpose. We have several types of intentional injuries. There is the suicide and parasuicide, domestic violence, bullying, stalking and extortion, verbal and sexual abuse like incest, molestation and rape, gang and youth violence, fraternity-related violence, kidnapping and abduction, and acts of terror. Let us do activity 2, synthesizing. You will need your paper and ballpen for this one. Directions. Look at the given scenario and write down the type of intentional injury it depicts. Number 1. Aaliyah's big sister at home tends to hurt her physically. She kept on hitting Aaliyah when nobody is looking. Number 2. Some of Julia's classmates are spreading hurtful rumors about her and keeps on calling her with different names like nerdy and sip-sip. Number 3. By the intense feeling of isolation and depression, Bettina tried to take her own life. Number 4. Franz was invited by his classmate Nico to join their group. This group of men have their own principles. Franz knows that becoming a part of the brotherhood would mean undergoing physical and mental initiation rites. Are you done? Hold on to your answers. As we move along with our lesson, let's see if we got them all correctly. Conceptual framework for intentional injury. Suicide is the intentional taking of one's own life. Parasuicide, a suicide attempt in which a person does not intend to die. Don't forget, if you are depressed or in intense pain, seek help from family and friends. Always bear in mind that committing suicide is never a remedy to end depression, pain, and any sort of problems. Domestic violence is an act that includes physical assault like hitting, pushing and shoving, sexual abuse or unwanted sexual activity, and verbal abuse. These are behaviors that are used by one person in a relationship who tries to control the other. This may occur to partners who are married or not married. Remember, the abuse is not your fault, and you definitely don't deserve it. Bullying is an unwanted aggressive behavior. The behavior is repeated or can be repeated. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious lasting problems physically, emotionally, and mentally. There are different classifications of bullying. We have the verbal bullying, where the saying or writing mean and nasty things. This includes name-calling, teasing, and taunting. Social bullying, hurting someone's reputation or relationship by spreading rumors and embarrassing someone in public. Also, there is the physical bullying, hurting a person's body or destroying their possessions. This includes hitting, pushing, and spitting. Cyberbullying, verbal and social bullying done through the use of technology and electronic means. This includes using social media, mobile devices, and electronic mails. Remember, if you are being bullied, report it immediately to your parent or teachers. No matter what the reason is, they do not have the right to bully you. Let's now have the gang. They are relatively tough, mostly street-based group of young people who regard themselves and may be seen by others as a group that engages in a range of criminal activity and violence. Oftentimes, they are in conflict with another similar gangs. Kidnapping is taking away or forcefully moving a person against their will and holding them in unjust captivity. This is usually done for a motive like monetary or ransom, or getting some sort of benefit from the kidnapped person or their family. Then we have abduction. It is the use of deceit or force in order to take a person or a child away from their homes or relatives. In this case, the victim usually knows or has some sort of relation with the abductor. Most of the time, the abductor is not holding the victim for profit or monetary gain. Acts of terror or terrorism. It is the use of violence for political goals or exposing the public or great number of people in fear. The purpose of these terrorist groups is to produce terror in their victims through the use of violence, fear, and pressure. Now remember, learn how to choose friends and the kind of group to be with. Otherwise, your action will result to a tragic situation. Now let's go to verbal abuse. It is a type of cruelty in the form of words. These words are used to attack, control, and cause harm to another person. Then we also have the sexual abuse. Under this, we have the incest. It is having sexual contact between persons who are closely related that a marriage between them is considered illegal. For example, a parent to his child, an uncle to a niece, an aunt to a nephew, grandparents to grandchild. There is also molestation. It is a sexual abuse of a person, whether a child or adult, by another adult for sexual pleasure or profit. Then there's rape. It is a forced sexual intercourse. Don't forget, always remember the difference between a good and a bad touch. Now that we're done with the different types of intentional injury, let us go back to activity 2, synthesizing, and check our work. Do you have your papers with you? Number 1. If you have answered domestic violence, then you are correct. Number 2. The situation shows verbal bullying. Number 3. Correct. It is suicide. Number 4. Very good. It pertains to a gang. Now let's have another learning task to answer. Read the following statements, then tell if you agree or disagree. Number 1. If a child misbehaves, it is okay for him or her to receive a corporal punishment. Do you agree or disagree? Number 2. Fraternity hazing is acceptable because it is an initiation rite to the brotherhood. Do you agree or disagree? A woman who acts and dresses provocatively deserves to be raped. Do you agree or disagree? Now, do these people deserve to experience the intentional injuries mentioned? Why or why not? Why do some people view intentional injuries as reasonable acts in the given situations? How do we control intentional injuries through these given situations? To further enhance our idea about intentional injuries, let us do this performance task entitled Intentional Injury Awareness Poster or Slogan Making. For the directions, on a bond paper, make a slogan that expresses the most common type of intentional injury involving the youth today. Give a short hashtag to your artwork. An example is already given below. For the criteria of your work, we have the following: content, 10 points; creativity, 10 points; visual appeal, another 10 points, for a total of 30 points. If you are done with the activity, you may pass your work to your teachers. Let us now proceed to the next activity. You will again need your paper and ballpen to do this. Learning task 4. Directions. Write true if the statement is correct and false if it is incorrect. Number 1. Making sexual jokes or displaying sexually suggestive pictures can be considered as sexual harassment. Correct. It is true. Number 2. Abduction is the use of violence for political goals and putting the public and a great number of people in fear. The answer is false. Good job. Number 3. If you are being bullied in school, the best thing to do is to report him or her to the proper authorities. Very good. It is true. Number 4. If you are depressed and in intense pain, seek help from your family and friends. That is true. Correct. Number 5. Cyberbullying is a form of cruelty that involves the use of words. These words are used to attack, control, and cause harm on another person. That is correct. False. For your assignment, write your personal insights about the lesson using the following prompts. I understand that. I realize that. I am happy because. I hope you learned a lot from our lesson today. See you next meeting. Goodbye!